All right, it is time for the John Riggins Show, TJRS, middle of February. Post-Super Bowl. I don't really have the post-Super Bowl blues, I gotta be honest. We're gonna get into that and a whole lot more. Here's Riggo.
All righty, Todd, thank you. Yeah, I agree with that. Like you said, we'll get into it a little bit later. I gotta tell you something, Todd. I'm lucky I'm here today. When I only got something, maybe I'm being a little over dramatic, and based on last week's show, I guess there's some folks out there that thought maybe I was a little over dramatic, so maybe that's just in my personality. But
just keeping it real. Keeping it real, as the kids like to say.
We're trying. But on the way over here, I got to get on off of this parkway that runs past my house. I got to get onto the Beltway, which is right before the American Legion Bridge.
Clara Barton Parkway.
Yeah, exactly. You get off of Clara Barton, and then you got to bend around to the left, and you get dumped onto basically you're right there.
On the bridge.
Basically, you're on the bridge. So they got a thing that says men working, or whatever it is. I'm telling you, I come around there, and I ain't really going that fast. And it's right, literally, as soon as you get into that lane, there they are. And then there's traffic, and I'm going too fast, and I'm trying to get into this left lane. And it's
in trouble.
I'm telling you, I came within 10, 15 feet of the barriers that they had. I was going to look like a bowling ball going through there. Workers going over the side of the bridge. No, wasn't that bad. But it was like, it was a little bit of got your attention. Okay, so I crossed the bridge, right? Now, everybody knows by now, probably anybody that watches the show, that I've got a little trouble with my neck, right? I don't have a goose neck. I don't have a rubber neck. It's, it's pretty much welded in place. I got to turn my body. So I'm getting ready to change lanes, and every time I change a lane, I try to take a look over my left shoulder. And, 99.9% of the time I do. 99.9. This 1/10% of the time that happened that day, I don't look over my shoulder. And I pull, I get into that. I got my signal on, and I pull it, and there's a car in the blind spot. Fortunately, the driver was very adroit and pulled over in the next lane. Didn't even honk or anything.
Didn't give you the business? Didn't give you anything?
No, and in some ways that's worse. It is true. When they completely ignore you, it's like, you feel bad, but so now they just, so I'm going, I don't know, is that no harm, no foul? They didn't see it either, but it wasn't close. I don't know how close it was, but this driver might have been trying to, barrel up, or could have been changing lanes from another side, getting into that. That happens every so often too.
But it clearly got your attention.
Yeah, it did, and it didn't get to where I was all like, oh God, but at the same time, it's like, man, maybe I should turn around and go home. This might not. There's Boxcar Willie sings a song that says, "It ain't gonna be your day." And I'm thinking to myself, and basically at the end of the song, when he gets to talk to St. Peter, St. Peter says, "It ain't going to be your day." So I got to thinking maybe it ain't going to be my day. But so far, so good. Anyway, listen, I think we ought to readdress some of the issues we talked about last week, because obviously everything blew up. Excuse me, please, across the country as far as some of the comments that I made on this show, and I want to clarify things. First of all, and I don't know which way to start, but I think I'll start with this. For anybody, the name Commanders, which still sticks in my throat, I will tell you that. But there's reasons for that, and I think we can work our way through that.
Right.
Even. If for anybody that thought for a fraction of a second that the name Commanders offended me because it had something to do with the military, that is a complete fabrication. Shame on you. If you look at my track record, you'll see my wife happens to be the executive director of the local USO chapter, and I am down at Quantico, I'm at Galas, and I love doing it, don't get me wrong, because, hey, they're the real guys. Those are the real heroes, and, you really have to be somewhat humble to be around those folks, because you really know that they don't pack it up on Sunday afternoon and jump on an airplane and fly back to wherever they do, and they're all done. Now some of them do. The SEAL teams probably do that, but
and John, to back it up a little bit more globally, is we're addressing some of the social media feedback and we get,
yes,
because it was very explosive, and in today's environment, when people want to take stuff out of context and they don't listen to the whole thing or whatever. So this is only for the handful of I call it basically some of the social media today. I've called it for years. It's graffiti, right? What we used to read on the walls, right, in the bathrooms or whatever else. It's some of the nonsense you're talking, because if anybody's been good about how they live their life and what the military has meant to you, right, going back when it wasn't cool and you as a player in particular. So don't even go there for anybody else considering that
Right,
notion.
exactly. That's just because I didn't know. Sometimes you say things and people misconstrue it. And truthfully, and I've said this plenty of times before, every game I ever played in, when they played the national anthem, that's why you'd never see me kneeling ever, because I thought of those folks, the men and women in Vietnam, because that's where I could have been. And even after Vietnam was over with, I still think of those folks that went over there. And I had a competitor in track, Terry Householder, that was somebody that I used to run against, and he was killed in Vietnam probably, I don't think, in 1969. So my heart is with the military. And I've always, that's, everything I've ever done in my life, the one true regret I have is I wasn't in the military. I mean, it ain't like, obviously I didn't volunteer, but when you look back on something that you feel like somehow you avoided something that you should have been a part of. So that's that. Now, there's another word I use. That word choice is very important. But when you do a show like this, and sometimes being 70 plus, the noodle ain't quite as slippery as it used to be. And so I use the word filthy about how this whole thing made me feel. And Lisa Marie, my lovely wife, pointed out, I don't think that was a good word choice. He said you should have used the word used, and I think that is correct. I felt used by this franchise, and yet you have to acknowledge, we all have to acknowledge, there is an ick factor here, folks. Now, does it rise to the level like they would in a courtroom? Does it rise to the level of should it make you feel filthy? Well, everybody's gonna make their own mind up about that. I don't know. Last week it made me feel filthy, but after having a pep talk with my wife, it made me feel used. I mean,
You
it's
got
cool.
your mind right.
It's Cool Hand Luke.
You got your mind right.
That's exactly what I was going to say next. It's Cool Hand Luke. I had a talk with the colonel, and the colonel said, and basically it was, I had my dirt in their hole, and I had to get my dirt out of their hole.
He said, I'm in command now.
Yeah, exactly.
As your commander.
Yeah, exactly. I found out where the real commander is. And that's now there's an oxymoron in there, if ever there was one. The commanders. And for 20 years, we've seen nobody in command out there. I mean, you have
projecting? Maybe they're projecting?
Something kind of weird there. Okay, there's a couple other things. Here's another thing, and my daughter touched on this. She came over and had dinner with us this week.
Now,
Excellent point, I think.
Which daughter is this?
Hannah.
Because there's big age discrepancy.
Wait a second now. Oh, right. Yeah, 8 years difference between her and Coco, who's basically last fall or last summer was a semi-regular on the show.
Well, she's replacing us soon.
We could only get her on the show, but she's got such a busy schedule. She's starring in. Well, I don't know if you could say she's starring, but they're doing the musical chorus line at her school, so she's got rehearsal.
One of many stars, I'm sure.
Yeah, actually, she is. I mean, well,
everybody.
She has starred. I mean, in Alice in Wonderland, she was Alice.
She's tremendous. Everything
she's had the lead in some of the stuff over there. But anyway, no, this is Hannah, and when I said she had dinner with us, I mean, I guess I should have explained it a little better, but Coco has dinner with us every night, unless she orders out, of course. And she's up in her room and says, "I don't want to see anyone." So she brought this up, and I thought it was so spot on, and it kind of goes along with what I wanted to say as I've thought about this for the past week, and that is that if you're going to do this, which they did, and once again, this is another issue. I think I said this last week, that I've never had. At least you don't have a problem with it till it's a problem. The guy in the FBI told me that once upon a time. It's not a problem unless it's a problem. Well, so everybody knows there's going to be a name change, and then you hear the name, and all of a sudden it's like, geez, what are they thinking? But if you're going to do this, rebrand from the ground up. Don't half-ass it. And that is change the damn colors.
Right.
Get rid of the burgundy and gold. There's where I think people are gutted out.
They're trying to have it both ways.
Exactly. You know what? That's exactly the wrong approach. And to think for 2 plus, well, I don't know how long it took them, and how many, probably 7 figures, hopefully not 8 figures, they paid somebody to come up with this strategy. If they would have come up and changed, like all the teams in Washington, red, white, and blue, get in line, Commanders.
Can't go wrong.
And here's the other part of it. Now, and I'm going to give them an idea just to show them I still love them, and that is, you know what? You still can make this right, get rid of the colors, and you can actually come uniforms, swag, selling merchandise. That's what this team is really good at. The games, winning games, maybe not so much. But now you could have a uniform that somehow falls in line with the Marines, the Army, the Air Force, the Coast Guard, and so on and so forth.
Let's make it all camo, red, white, and blue camo.
Well, I'm trying to think. I don't know. I don't know. Do pilots wear camo up there in that plane? Is that just in case they get shot down?
With the clouds or the sky.
I think it's probably their suits are where it's really light blue on the bottom of them, and they got a different color on top because it's like a fish. They're very light on the bottom, and when you look down on them, you can't see them.
That's right.
They got themselves covered. No, I just think that, and for me, if you're going to, and I think this is where a lot of people are, and this is where the disenfranchisement comes from. Is if you're going to keep these colors and you're going to switch and jerk everybody completely to the right or the left, whatever your perspective is, you can't, I mean, to change it then to something so different, that's where the shock factor comes in. And this is the name I would have come up with, so I'll go ahead and let this out. And it just occurred to me this week because I thought about
reveal.
Yeah, big reveal. I think if they wanted to keep these colors, if they'd call themselves the Tomahawks, something along those lines. Something. If you're going to do this and make the change and be respectful of Native Americans, I would have thought something, and like I said, keep the same colors. You could have kept that kind of same theme, and it's not a bridge too far. Mm-hmm. But to keep those colors, then so basically it's kind of they want to keep one foot in and try to drag people from the past generation with them, which isn't going to work. I'll just tell you. I mean, it isn't going to work.
Well, clearly the line of demarcation, and it's for people that grew up 60s, 70s, 80s.
Yeah, exactly.
In the heyday of what the Washington Redskins represented. It's the end of that era and closing of that chapter. Versus you're trying to have 1 foot in the past and 1 or 2 feet going forward here, right. And that's where everybody has these raw emotions and feels the way that they do.
I'm wondering, now you brought that up. I think you made an excellent point. Is if they had a requiem for the old franchise, if you will, and actually acknowledged everything and not tried to steal from it. This team hasn't done anything for a long, long time, basically 30 years. If you go all the way back, 92 is the last time that they really made any noise at all. And that's
100%.
That's 30 years ago. If they would have had a requiem and don't steal, I mean, this is pure theft to take what was done before it, and try to drag it in and, while around puff your chest out and put it on a logo of some kind. The past Super Bowls, the championship in 1940, I'm going, no. I think everybody would feel better and they could adjust quicker if you just cut the umbilical cord and let the old franchise go, the old name, and just adjust people that this is a new day moving forward. It'd be great for everybody, really, if they could do that, because clearly this franchise for 20 years under the current ownership there's been a lot of strife. I mean, every year it seems there's something new where there's some new distraction that's of a major, it isn't a small distraction, whether it's with the coaching staff.
We can't even win off the field anymore.
Exactly. I mean, once upon a time they were winning off the field. Now they can't win on the field or off the field. So I would just think that if you're really going to try to get people behind you, you just got to cut the tail off once and for all, not a little piece at a time like somebody once
Well, this
told
is
me.
it. I mean, I firmly believe this is it. And based on the feedback that we get, and let's face it, John, you're on the Mount Rushmore of the team.
No, maybe. Thank you.
And clearly amongst a very small group of folks, and everybody feels that way. And this is the evolution of the team in this city. And for 20 years, they had tried to have it both ways because they weren't winning off the field. They don't have any, the guys that they have tried to market and make a part of all this, from Clinton Portis to Chris Cooley to
Santana Moss.
I mean, there's plenty of them. Yeah. That they've tried, and it just doesn't resonate to what you guys achieved because you were champions. Winning will cure everything.
Line. Yeah, that's exactly what it is. I mean, that's the acid test. If you don't have Bill Parcells, the great Bill Parcells, Where we work, you're judged by your jewelry.
What a great line.
Yeah.
What a great
And only Bill could come up with. New Jersey guy, you know, he's got it all. He's got it all going on.
And you know what? Even I'll give the Buffalo Bills respect getting there 4 straight times. Even okay, you're doggone close, but I don't think the fans in Buffalo, as frustrated they may be, versus what we've experienced, and we're in this barren desert that it was so foreign to us.
Right.
And it's gone from bad to worse to, I think everybody's kind of like, ugh.
Yeah. And now we got all this controversy circling, engulfing the team would be the better choice of words. So I guess really just to get this, you know, once and for all, and for the most part, I don't think we'll bring it up again. But you never know. These folks, they can get your attention. I felt used for the fact that they jumped right out. That the day that this was announced, I believe you could buy a Commander John Riggins jersey. So that was not even a phone call. Nobody even bothered to ask me if that was okay.
Hey,
now
Riggo.
maybe, and of course the way things work, we'll have to have an investigation that will go nowhere.
And apparently,
but I don't know. Maybe it was. Maybe
Congress is going to have to get involved too, and even they're being like, "Yeah, talk to the hand."
So maybe that they had nothing to do with it, and it was Fanatics, which is an outfit that does these things, and they just decided on their own, we'll just put it out. I don't know, but it didn't feel right to me.
Rude.
And that's it. Change the colors, and military. Hey, you're solid. We're solid. I love the military, and I'm amazed by the people that work there. And so let's move on to the Super Bowl.
Super Bowl. Well,
I'm not going to move very far.
Okay. I recall one snowstorm blizzard here in the nation's capital that you actually listened to the game in your truck.
It's true. It's true. What happened was that, we had about 20, depending on where you were, but it was almost, 30 inches of snow around here.
Yeah.
It was the strangest thing, too. I remember driving up, George Washington Parkway. I was the only vehicle on a parkway. I've never, it's one of those moments. It's just like, being in Manhattan when 9/11 happened,
right,
and watching people come up 8th Avenue. It's like a movie was going. It's like they're shooting a movie, really. It's surreal. And so then I'm at home. I'd just taken my 2 daughters down to their grandmother's where my wife was because they had power in D.C. We had no power out there in Cabin John. And so I'm there, and so I'm sitting in there, go out, excuse me, please, go out to my truck, and I'm listening to the game, and all of a sudden, I see a light, a street light flickers, and it comes on. And I went, whoa, okay, the power's on. So I go inside, turn the game on, and I maybe watched 15 minutes of the game, power goes off again. So I end up back in my truck. I was I don't know why. I must have had to do it for a job because, trust me, it had been so much easier to sit in there and drink beer by the fire and just forget about it.
Yeah.
But anyway, so let's fast forward to 2022, last Sunday. I start watching the game. I'm actually kind of like, I'm very ambivalent as to what, do I want to watch? And I just talked to Joe Jacoby the day before or whatever, and Joe was the same way. He was going, I don't know, I'll probably watch the game. Wasn't like, oh, wow, this is going to be a great Super Bowl and all that stuff. Yeah, that kid from Cincinnati, boy, he's a good quarterback. Wasn't any of that stuff. It's like, maybe I will. And he really was my reason for watching. Well, now Joe Burrow, you got to like a guy like that. I mean, he is the epitome of a Timex watch. He takes a licking and keeps on ticking.
Yeah.
I mean, I'm telling you, I've never seen anything like that. But anyway, so I turned the game on. They get to about, a little bit, 3/4 of the way through the first quarter. And guess what?
You were not a happy camper.
I turned it off. And it wasn't because of the football. It was because of the commercials. I was like, are you kidding me? That every time the ball changes hands, you're going to throw me a commercial? And these commercials, even the commercials, I'm going, I'm over trying to get some old goat actors on there to make them look funny and all. I'm going, I don't know. It just doesn't work for me anymore. And I might be, maybe I'd admit, I'm just a grumpy old man. What can I tell you? Even my voice sounds like a grumpy old man. But I just turned it off. So go all the way through the game. I did miss the halftime show, and for that, I really, I've been self-flagellating for the past week.
Well, you kept, to back it up, because you're telling me like going, they're playing way more commercials now. So you made me get me thinking,
That's
because
your bailiwick.
I produced, probably over 200 NFL football games in my
Yes.
career, and
you would know
with
all
that
about
timing
commercials.
and how they breaks and meet with the league
Orange
and how
arms
this all,
or whatever he's called,
green
red
hat,
mittens,
green hat, and orange arms,
or
and
orange mittens,
and
or
how
whatever.
this is all coordinated. And they definitely added some commercial time because at almost $6 million for a 30-second spot. The Keebler elves went back and they made some more.
Yeah.
And so they do not like any dead air. I mean, it's just massive amounts of money that they just jam it in. So
How many commercials? And did you take a ballpark figure? What do you think the commercials? How many ran during the Super Bowl?
So typically,
There's a 2-minute break.
It's typically during the regular season. It's supposed to be four 90-second breaks. Then they pad it with 10 to 20 seconds of a promo that they allow. So everybody's timing is the same from the radio broadcast to the TV broadcast, so everybody's in sync.
So they're getting probably 3 commercials in per break.
Yeah.
Paying commercials or whatever you want to call it.
And they break some of those down. Most of them are 30s.
Okay,
and some of them they sell for 15 or even 10s. And then at the end of the quarter, you get an additional 30 seconds in the break. And those are typically into quarter breaks are 2 minutes and 10 seconds.
Okay, so tell me approximately, if you can do the math in your head, how much, based on, what'd you say, let's figure 20 commercials overall, it was more than that probably, 25 or 30?
Way more.
For the whole game?
Yeah, over 40 to 50.
Okay, 50 times, what'd you say, 6 million?
Oh, this thing was selling out. I mean,
that's $300 million.
And
right?
they also offer different types of inventory because what they can't predict is how many injuries, right? And stoppage in play. Do I have enough time to sneak one in? So this is all a highly choreographed, because it's big bucks.
So
by
no
the
matter
Super
what,
Bowl.
if they get, like you said, they got the injury breaks. If they go to a commercial, of course, and a lot of times
they've got a bank of those that are already paid and they're good for it, and with the notion of, hey, I'm fifth in line, and if there is somehow, some way,
is that the same price? Cost you the same thing?
Or
is it as an alternate commercial? Is that cost the same? You think?
Listen, this sells out relatively quickly, right? And then they start selling additional spots and say, hey, it may or may not make it. If it makes it, though, you're third in line because we had extra stoppages in play, and we can sneak in a 10 or 15 second hit, and here's your price. Do you want it? Yes or no? If it airs, fine. But there's a chance it may not air.
And then they give you your money back.
Yeah, or they typically don't give it back.
Next year?
They do a make good and said, we'll keep the money and we're going to make you whole, big guy.
You gotta love them.
Get the weekend.
You gotta love these folks. I had this brilliant idea, at least I think it's brilliant, the NFL would go, get him out of here. But I'm thinking, because it's the premier event of the NFL, the Super Bowl. Actually, let's be honest. It's the premier event
free?
of the United States, huh?
You want it commercial free?
Yeah. You're right. Get me out of here.
We'd be done in 42 minutes or less of the actual play.
Would that be so bad? Think about it. I guess you're right. There's no way to extract all the money out of it that you possibly can. But I was thinking where you'd have, a commercial here, maybe at the end of every quarter you have a commercial and let people, auction it off to the highest bidder. But there's no way would somebody pay $100 million for a commercial?
Amazon could write a check, Facebook could write a check, Google could write a check, say we're sponsoring an entire broadcast.
Name your price.
Name
right?
your price.
Hey, Roger, here's a blank check. Just fill it in.
And if you don't, we're going to buy the league.
You're right.
We're not
Google,
there yet.
Facebook, and Amazon got together. They could buy the league pretty handily, I would think.
Oh.
And have plenty of money plenty of beer money left over.
It's stunning. And Apple, these are trillion-dollar companies. It almost seems make-believe, and the treasure chest of cash they have. But we're getting a little bit off a track. Yeah. So you were really annoyed. I'm going to use annoyed with the commercials chopping up the first quarter. You're like,
yeah, it's just like for me, it ruins the flow of the game. Like I said, I don't know. I mean, in high school, when you play a high school game, do they stop for a commercial? I don't know. Maybe some of those games are broadcast.
No. Well,
college ball now they do. So I don't know. Maybe what? It's so ingrained in our brains of how a football game is broadcast that the average person doesn't think a whole lot of it. But obviously, I'm a little bit below average or something. But I'm not that guy, because it did, like I said, it just annoyed the hell out of me. That and it's almost like watching some boar hog just scrape money off the table, and you're sitting over there. It's almost like watching what's his name, the Christmas Story. With the ghost and all that, Ebenezer Scrooge
Right.
and Bob Cratchit and Mr. Scrooge, could I possibly? No, get out of here.
That's the ultimate day for that, and probably the only thing bigger is World Cup soccer. And so
That's true. It's hard to-
so the ratings were
Through the roof.
it was up. Let's see, 6.7% from
Last year.
From last year, 112.3 million viewers. And this is also the first time that they had Super Bowl completely in Telemundo here in the U.S. Also, largest Spanish language NFL game audience ever. You factor in all the online and this, so they win again. They won again. Back to the ads though, and we used to really care about Super Bowl game day ads, right? Because you were
The frog.
Everybody was rooting, and there's some iconic commercials that were created, and everybody's bringing out their best game to be noticed because you're spending the most money on that particular day.
Exactly, and they spend it.
But even that part, it just doesn't have the same sizzle and pizzazz anymore. They're pre-releasing all these commercials now. They're milking it. It's like
Right.
everything else, right? After a while, we all feel like, okay, enough already.
I've become stigmatized.
Yeah, and there were very few commercials that got your attention at all, and I watched all of them.
Yeah, and you just go, really? That's it, huh?
Yeah.
Like I said, it's evolved into something that that for me it just doesn't work for me anymore. But you have to appreciate too the fact that I played the game. I played in that very game a couple of times, and I guess I'm not that kind of a fan really.
Right.
I'm just kind of more curious.
How did you, as a player, and in that particular game, because clearly.
Well, as a player, they couldn't have enough commercials.
Right. That's where I'm going with that. That's where I'm going with it. I'm like, hey guys, you're looking over at orange hat and green sleeves and going, guys, what are we doing?
Take a break,
guys.
I'm out there on the field doing this to what's his name, Orange Sleeves or whatever it was.
Did you have your own?
Yeah, I couldn't have enough commercials. When I was a
So what
player.
we're talking about, for those, you see them on the sidelines, and you don't see them very often. You used to see them a lot more, but now, but there's two people that are coordinated. There's a person in the TV truck that tells when they're going to go to break, and he signals to the ref.
The ref's got to look at him every play, right? Or a change of
possessions, and
Right,
and then it really gets
or an
tricky.
injury.
It gets tricky as to they have to make an evaluation on an injury as to
Is it going to
does
be a
this look
while?
serious? How long will this person be down? Do we try to? Which sometimes you see him sneak in a 30. Okay, and that's all by design. But there's two people on the sidelines. One wears an orange. He's the orange hat and green sleeves.
But who's the one though that with the orange mittens?
That's green sleeves and orange hat is for the spotter so the referee can communicate. He sees that guy, and you'll see a guy going like this and
Keep
say,
it
no,
going.
keep it going. If they do this, they're going to the timeout. So it's all choreographed. It starts in the truck. And so you as a player, you love this.
Yes. Didn't break my heart.
You as a player didn't like this.
Let's just say there were occasions, and down. It only seemed like I looked to the sidelines more often down in Miami and Tampa and places like that. Never played in Arizona, thank God.
Well, speaking
L.A.
So the game, and you were true to your word. I think you checked out in the second quarter.
No, I checked out at the end of the first quarter. It wasn't even the end. I never made it through the first quarter. And then I was done. And then so Lisa Marie comes home, and she got home. She was down with the troops down at the armory. Coco went with her and basically was, walking around handing out, potato chip bags and all that stuff. So she was down there for her school. You got to do so much community service, the kind of stuff you do when the judge says, 200 hours of community service.
Coach
But
Gibbs.
Coco didn't get, no, hers is from the school, not from I want to make sure nobody runs with that.
Hey,
Takes it the wrong way.
Just going back to Coach Gibbs, good community guy.
Yes, she's a good community girl. Good community girl.
Community girl.
So they get home about 9:30, something like that. I'm guessing somewhere in there. And I went, whoa, you guys are home. So I figured they'd be down there for the entire game. So we're sitting around and doing nothing. And Lisa, he says, well, let's watch the last quarter of the game. And I went, no, okay. By then I'm going, well, if Ellen wants to watch it, I will. So we turned on, and there's about 10 minutes to go in the game. And I got to say, it was interesting. It's just, and to actually talk about the game just for a second, that, it's so strange that when I say strange, the Rams got a good football team, and really when you look at it, I mean, in the big scheme of things, I got a feeling Joe Burrow, that's not the last the Super Bowl's ever seen of Joe Burrow. I just don't think that's going to happen. Maybe, I don't know. But Matt Stafford, doesn't this prove something to everybody how the right place at the right time
You've always said
is what life is all about? I mean, I can speak from personal experience. I'm not going to about how this works. But you take Matt Stafford. I mean, he played for a dog of a franchise, which they're still not really. I mean, like somebody once told me when I was doing the show on Sirius satellite radio, they used to have a billboard in Detroit saying rebuilding since '57 or something like that, '59.
And true.
And we might start putting them up around here, rebuilding since 1991. Something, or 93, I guess would be the right word here. So anyway, that Stafford, he played all those years up there, and you kind of you'll get a reputation. Well, he plays for the Lions. He comes, gets with the right team, bada bing, bada boom, gets on the right guys.
You contrast and compare George Allen, John Riggins, Joe Gibbs, John Riggins.
Yeah, exactly. Huge difference. And so that's the whole point here. And at the same time, the thing that I liked was it tied the Super Bowl record, 7 sacks. He was actually sacked 9 times in the game against the Tennessee Titans in the playoffs earlier on. I don't know. I mean, on the one hand, you have to wonder if he can keep taking that kind of abuse, because he got roughed up pretty good there, at least in the last part of the game, because that's the part I saw.
Sprained his
ankle?
sprained his
knee.
On his good knee, his medial collateral leg does not need surgery.
And see, kept on playing.
And that hit he took against Washington that knocked him out was vicious in his rookie season,
right,
in which his knee exploded, came back, did what he did. Pretty remarkable.
Yeah, he and this is something you probably don't know about him. Do you realize my Hannah's boyfriend is a big chess player, and I don't know if you know anything about chess. I do. I can play chess, but that's all I can do. I mean, anybody's going to beat me.
Rook 2.
Rook, that's the little guy, right? The little bitty guy. Anyway, do you realize he's got his own rating? I mean, if you play this enough, you get a rating and all that, and you can play everybody online nowadays. So you can play anybody, really. I don't know if you can get probably a grandmaster to go, what's your rating? I think I'll pass. But anyway, he played 11 games of chess before the game. Did you know that?
Oh, wow.
So I don't
get his mind right.
Think about that, though. See, I don't know enough about chess to really understand, just how complicated it is. I go, that looks like a good move. Oh, no, that was a bad move. Okay,
so let's
see here. Oh, they got my queen. Ooh, that's definitely bad.
I could see you and Dexter playing checkers before a game.
Yeah. Checkers would have been my game, and I'm not any good at checkers. You know what? Now you got me all upset, because my dad used to play checkers. He's born 1917, so that was they'd sit around the Cracker Barrel or whatever, and they'd play checkers in all those filling sticks. Yeah, exactly. So you realize that he'd never let me win. As a kid, he knew how to play and play. I mean, and then he'd laugh.
Any chance he cheated?
Then he'd laugh. He didn't have to cheat. I was just a kid, Todd.
He's just wearing you out.
He was. But anyway, getting back to Joe Burrow. I mean, that guy's got to have some stuff going on, right?
Oh.
I mean, think about it. I mean, I know from talking to my daughter or my daughter's boyfriend, because it fascinates me exactly, how complicated that game is and the moves that you have to see. That takes a pretty sophisticated mind if you're going to be any good. I don't know how good he is. He could be like John Riggins when it comes to checkers, not very good. But it's like he likes to play checkers. I don't know how good he is, but if he's any good, that's got to serve him pretty well when he's doing all of his homework for pass coverages and all this stuff. I mean, he won't miss anything. I mean, we might be looking at the next greatest quarterback of all time. And when I say that, I mean actually the greatest quarterback, because it looks like he can throw the ball. He can't move around too much, though, can he? Of course, he's got that bad leg, but
yeah,
he's not exactly.
That's a part of it. I mean, and
he's not a. I mean, is he a classic drop back, or can he move a little bit in the pocket? I didn't watch
but
enough of it.
Not like a kid up.
He's not
in
John
Buffalo,
Elway,
or the kid up in Buffalo, Josh Allen, who is
a huge guy but can move very well.
And that's part of their game plan for Burrow, especially coming off the injury. Yeah. So, but they tell you what a great story, though, right?
Yeah. I mean, really, when you think about it, I think everybody was treated actually the Super Bowl because you got to see two quarterbacks. You got to see the future, and you got to see somebody at the tail end of his career that took a team and won a championship. So, kudos to the L.A. Rams, and kudos to the Cincinnati Bengals for getting there.
And interesting, John, the top metered markets for the TV ratings. So. Cincinnati and Los Angeles, right? Top metered markets where they had the largest shares of TVs on and watching the game. What do you think number one metered market here in the U.S.?
Is that percentage or just total viewers?
It's a percentage of TVs on in the marketplace consuming.
Percentage?
It's a share.
I'm going to guess Cincinnati.
Cincinnati was number one.
Yeah.
What do you think was number two?
That one I got no clue because it wasn't L.A., I don't think.
L.A. didn't make the top 10.
Yeah, exactly.
L.A. I'm not even sure is top
20. What is it with
L.A.
that
is not even top 20. Now, they had a 36 share. Cincinnati had a 46 share. L.A. was, I believe, a 36 share.
I don't know. New Orleans.
That's not even the top 10.
New Orleans, number 2?
Detroit, showing the love for Matt Stafford.
And,
behind Cincinnati.
Right, that would make sense.
Almost tied. So you're here, and this is also what you need to know about the heartland and the power of the NFL. So here are your top 10 markets.
Everything out in the Midwest.
Cincinnati, Detroit, Pittsburgh, Columbus, Ohio, Joe Burrow country.
Right.
Kansas City, Milwaukee, Cleveland, Boston, Philadelphia, and Jacksonville round out your top 10.
Is that right?
Yeah.
That's interesting. Right. Jacksonville's kind of a... what do you call it? A flyer.
Yeah,
there, it would seem to me.
Really
the rest of them would make sense. Boston, kind of a, what do you call it? Where did they come from? Because, you're mentioning all those
half of them thought Tom Brady was still going to be in the game, and they just didn't even know he was down.
He's got a lot of pull. There's no question about that. Anyway, Toddy, I think we've been here long enough, so I think we're going to have to go with Riggo out.